First on Film and Entertainment, we have got Greg King, Peter Krause, Sandy Kay and Jaqui Hammerton. So the gang's back together again. And last week we had a bit of fun talking about a number of the Oscar-nominated movies. There are a few others that we need to talk about that missed out potentially but are still worthy. One of them is Baby Girl. Now, it's a very controversial film, and it's controversial because obviously it talks about sex, involves kinks, all of that stuff. But it's also about Nicole Kidman taking on roles that are, let's say, adventurous. And I've got to say, I don't know about the rest of you, but I admire the fact that she chooses films that are not necessarily easy topics. What do you think, Sandy?
I agree with you 100% in that. She was quite amazing in this film, and you're right, it's right out there. I know you're going to tell everybody what the story is here, but you've got to be prepared for a bit of a sex ride in this film, and I'm just left wondering what Keith Urban had to say and what he thought of her role in this.
Well, I mean, it's not, when you say it's right out there, okay, it's got certain elements, but it's not basic instinct. I reckon a lot of it's suggestive rather than explicit, and that's obviously the way they wanted to play it. So, yeah, I didn't think it was all, it was all that far. I think the movies go a lot further than that, and it's just, I think, linking the subject matter with Nicole Kidman doing what she's doing and being a cougar and all of that stuff, I think that's what's got the attention of a lot of people. What about you, Jacqui? What did you think of it?
Well, Alex, I don't necessarily agree with you when you say it's suggestive but not explicit. I think it's extremely explicit, just because it doesn't... Oh, what was that? It's Sandy's dog barking.
Is it Sandy or Jackie's dog? One of them. Oh, my God.
Gone now.
Do you see it? Do you growl back at the dog the same way the dog growls at you, Sandy?
No, he's just barking at something outside. He likes me.
That's good. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Jacqui.
I was saying I think that Nicole Kidman's role in this is very explicit and shown in explicit close-up. It's just because you're used to the idea that, nudity and showing sex acts in full body is what being explicit is.
Well, but hang on. Okay, let's be clear for people who are going to go along and see this film for titillation reasons. I was going to say that we see her from behind, and we see a flash or two of a nipple. That's it. It's not...
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that to me is not... Okay, mate, I've just gone to see, as part of Midsummer, the most explicit show I've ever seen, and that sort of went down a treat with the audience. But, I suppose I can only compare it to other movies that we've seen. And, I mean, Basic Instinct was a lot more explicit than this, and that was 1992.
Alex,
so, what about you, Peter?
We have the camera
in fine detail or the subject matter, but in terms of Nicole Kidman playing it, how sexually explicit you think Baby Girl is? Peter?
Oh, sorry, I was getting double conversations. Look, I think we're missing the point of the film because, yes, there is some sexual explicitness insofar as that she is a sex addict, but it's about power relationships and power plays and about women having power.
I'm not questioning that at all, but I'm saying, would you consider this to be an explicit movie?
Mildly explicit.
Right, mildly. Okay. Greg?
Yeah, mildly explicit. There are a few sort of confronting problematic scenes there, but it's not as explicit as some of the films we've seen, especially some European films.
Yes, exactly. Look, I suppose also it's interesting here because is it along gender lines, Jacqui, perhaps, in terms of perception?
Absolutely, I think it is. Yes, totally. I think I'm seeing it completely differently from how you appear to.
That's great, and that's why it's terrific that we've got you and Sandy on.
I mean, this is a real close-up, the closest close-up you can get during sex of a woman's most intimate moments. I mean, how much more explicit can you be than that?
But it's not. It's on face rather than elsewhere.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Sandy, do you?
I tend to agree with Jackie. I mean, even the soundtrack has moaning in it. I mean, you've got to be careful who you attend this movie with, I have to tell you. If you're on a date and you haven't gone to bed with that person yet, this is not the movie that you want to go see.
Not a first date movie.
It's definitely your first movie. I don't know if you've picked your partner carefully. Maybe it is. Who knows? You know, no,
it's full on, and she's in such compromising situations. I mean, it doesn't, when we say it's graphic and out there, it's not that we see genitals and things like that. It's much more subtle than that, I think.
Exactly. Yep. And she's at her most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's explicit.
Well, let's talk about the film a little bit more. It's MA rated, runs for 114 minutes. And to the outside world, this woman has the perfect life. She's CEO of her own company. The company's going places. She's got this doting theatre director husband, played by Antonio Banderas, a couple of daughters. And she still has this metaphorical itch that has long needed scratching. And in the most...
What a way to put it. Sorry. Metaphorical itch. Well, okay, sorry. Sorry, it's just a very...
No, I'm sorry, I'm merely male, and that's the way I'm putting it. But in the most unlikely of circumstances, Jackie, indeed is scratched. And at the same time, doing so puts in peril all that she's worked so diligently to attain. And now I speak of a woman who's played by Nicole Kidman, whose character name is Romy Mathis. And she's fashionable, she's highly regarded, and she's got a successful warehouse automation business. During the business itself engages several new interns, and one of these immediately catches her eye. Earlier on the street, she'd actually witnessed this particular intern calming a ferocious dog who was in attack mode, much like Sandy's dog was recently. No, anyway, Samuel is his name, played by Harrison Dickinson, and he's not backward in coming forward. He knows what he wants and he goes for it. And he chooses the Romy character, the Nicole Kidman character, as his reluctant mentor. And I say reluctant because she doesn't want to do it. And the tension in the air is palpable. So it's clear that physical intimacy between them, just a matter of time. He's the one who'll call the shots. He will turn up unexpectedly. She will succumb to the thrill and the danger. And Romy has a decided kink, as does Samuel. She's, though, used to vanilla sex with her husband, but this is anything but that. And the age difference, well, no impediment. Both continue to push the boundaries. Unsurprisingly, matters will inevitably come to a head, and it's merely a question of when. So, as Peter said, Baby Girl is about power and control. And it's also about women climbing the corporate ladder. And I'm not just talking here about Romy, but also her personal assistant, Esme, played by Sophie Wilde. Esme has long sought a promotion. And even though Romy has an equal opportunity firm and praises Esme's work, Romy has been prevaricating about giving her that promotion. So, look, I said it's in the same sexually charged milieu as Fatal Attraction that came out in 1987 and Basic Instinct. So the writer and director, Helena Rain, who did Instinct, draws us into this web of deceit where the risk of exposure remains an ever-present threat. A further sexual element in the story is Romy's eldest daughter. Her name is Isabel. The character name is Isabel, played by Esther McGregor. And she's exploring her sexuality as well, interest in the same gender. So it's tense throughout, Baby Girl, with the music and sound effects, and already we've referenced sort of heavy breathing and moaning. They help to drive the narrative. And Nicole Kidman really does throw caution to the wind. Another fearless performance. She gives herself over to the risque storyline. She really is a force to be reckoned with, whether wielding power or simply displaying vulnerability, which is what the role calls for. And look, Harrison Dickinson, I can't say that he's entirely likeable as the bolshy lead, far from it, but that makes him eminently watchable. And again, that's what the role calls for. And truth be told, he's the bad boy of the piece. And I don't need to tell any listener, I don't think, that this isn't the first time, nor will it be the last, that women are drawn to bad boys. and Antonio Banderas, well, it's a largely thankless part as the straight-laced husband, and Sophie Wilde makes her mark as the executive assistant who learns how to step things up. So, I mean, yeah, and I kind of liked Esther McGregor as well, quite a meaty role as the daughter, unafraid of spreading her wings. So it certainly attracts attention, Baby Girl, and let's be honest, sex sells, and it always has, always will. I can't say, though, I was totally sold on what I thought was a convenient ending. I mean, I just thought, yeah, really, would this honestly happen in real life? I don't buy it. But regardless, no doubting that this is Nicole Kidman's vehicle and one where she deserves the accolade. So let's start off with you, Sandy. What did you think of Baby Girl?
I hate to admit I really enjoyed it. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I was quite intrigued by the whole cougar theme, which seems to be quite prevalent in films these days. It's a little bit of a fashion for older women with younger men, and you kind of get it in that setting. As you said, her marriage is, you know, it's quite stale. The sex she's having with her husband is pretty ho-hum. And this guy comes along and he's this ray of sunshine and spark of life. I mean, she has no idea when she gets involved with him that he's going to turn into this dominating character and make her do all sorts of crazy things. We didn't even have to make her. She was so compliant. She was willing to go along. And it really shows you that sex, love with a question mark, is a complete addiction. Nicole Kidman became addicted to this behaviour and was so vulnerable in that area and could have lost everything, all the career that she built up so hugely, her family, her whole life could have been smashed. And I kind of get it. I don't want to say too much about that, but I kind of get it. So I did really enjoy this, and it was quite a refreshing take, I thought.
There we go. So personal revelations here, Sandy. What about you, Jack?
Well, I want to disagree with you on everything, Alex, as usual. Just the most fun.
Yeah, good. So,
I would have liked to have known why, right from the start, Romy herself or with her husband didn't go to some form of counselling. Because we wouldn't have had a movie, I know, if it had worked. But anyway, I would have liked to have known that.
Jacqui, the counselling may not have worked anyway. You can't just assume that if they had gone, that it would magically fix their situation.
No, but I would have liked some suggestion in the movie of why that didn't work or happen. But obviously her husband wasn't listening to her because she did attempt to draw him into this. It really is about the risk-taking, and really that is why I did like the ending, Alex, very much. I thought that...
It would never...
No, I did. I did.
Never... But, I mean, if you relate everything to real life, this wouldn't...
Sorry, I didn't realise it was a documentary. I thought it was a movie.
But hang on, you've got to buy what they're selling, don't you? I mean,
and I didn't buy most of the movie, okay? I really didn't buy most of the movie, but I liked the ending because, it showed that her husband finally did... Are we giving away the ending?
Yeah.
How can I say why I like the ending if I can't...
No, you've got to be vague.
Okay, I like the ending, both in terms of her family life and in terms of the final scene in her professional life, where she's in her office and has a conversation with an older gentleman. Anyway, so I like that.
Sorry, pause for a moment. Let me ask, Sandy, did you buy the ending or not?
Do you know what? I can't even remember the ending.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you.
And memorable, obviously.
I know. Well, what I do remember is that the marriage is resolved.
Oh, okay, guys.
She's given it away. Okay, spoiler. Anyway, one thing that I wanted to point out was how much the gist of this film, Baby Girl, reminded me of the film Last Summer, the French film about a similar-aged woman who's a lawyer and has a wild affair with her husband's son, so her stepson. And this again is the same concept of the risk taking that gives the thrill that's missing from her life and her marriage. And I didn't like that film either. To me, again, that didn't ring true. I just didn't ring true.
Okay, which film sex have you liked, Jacqui?
Well, sex is only one component of these films.
I understand. No, sorry, I was being a bit cheeky, but what I'm really asking.
I actually thought Nicole Kidman, acted, performed, was on camera. She's extraordinary. I've always liked her as an actress. Anyway, she hasn't always chosen the right films. I haven't always liked the films, but
She should have asked.
the one film she did consult me on was many years ago. I think it was probably about 10, 15 years ago, was Rabbit Hole. And I that's her, in my view, that's her best acting performance of all time and the best film she's ever appeared in. And that's one of my favourite films of all time, actually. And while I always think she's a wonderful actress because of her role in that, but she was very good in this. I just didn't particularly like the story. I didn't particularly like the direction of it either. It was choppy. And
Did you think she was sexy?
did I think she was sexy? No, not really.
No, it's interesting. People are really polarized by the way she looks. I think she looks fabulous, and some gentleman that I was speaking to go, nah, she's a beanpole. She's up and down straight. She's not voluptuous. She's not good looking.
Well, she didn't even smile in the film. Her role wasn't as warm. She wasn't a warm-hearted, smiling person in the film. And I think that's a lot of. Yeah. So no, I don't think she. I mean.
Okay, so Sandy, it depends. The answer to that question is it depends on your tastes, I suppose. I mean, I think she looks extraordinary as well. So there you go.
Yeah, but it's the character she was playing didn't come across as sexy.
No, well, yeah. Again, I think she was sexy, but there you go. Greg, did you think she was sexy?
Oh, yeah, but...
Oh, yeah, but... Here's over the head with a lettuce leaf.
But no, sort of not really... getting excited, am I? No.
No, you're not. Golly, raise the temperature a little bit, Greg. Tell me about what your thoughts of the film are, please.
Yeah, you forgot to mention a film called Disclosure with Demi Moore and Michael Douglas about sexual harassment in the workplace as well, which I thought of when I was watching this film, and the changing power dynamics between Nicole Kidman's character and that of Harris Dickinson. So, yeah, but the film deals with those themes of power dynamics, sexuality, control, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't enjoy it as much as obviously Saini did. I thought the shifting nature of the relationship between the pair raised a lot of issues there. But for me, that fatal attraction that threatened their lives and reputation didn't really click for me. I thought it was a handsome-looking production, glossy production values, nicely shot, I thought, as well. And I thought Kidman was quite strong as the tightly wound Romi, a CEO thriving in a male-dominated world. Also brought some touches of vulnerability and uncertainty to the role as well. I agree, it's a brave and revealing performance in more ways than one. Reminded me a little bit of her work in Eyes Wide Shut, actually.
Yes.
And the Kubrick drama, yep. And I thought Dickinson brings a smouldering intensity to his role as a more enigmatic character. He didn't always convince me, though. There you go. And I thought with
sorry, Greg, can you tell me why he didn't convince you? What sort of stood out?
Yeah, something that's a bit standoffish about him, I thought.
Again, maybe that was the character, though. Maybe that was the character he was trying to play.
But he was that standoffish, he probably wouldn't have attracted someone like Nicole Kidman's character. So I'm not sure. That, for me, didn't quite work. But it's certainly a provocative and challenging enough film there. And it's problematic in its attitude towards sexuality, gender roles, and power and domination. But it's certainly better than those 50 Shades of Grey films.
that wouldn't be too difficult. I hate to.
They set the bar pretty low, did they?
I reckon that, yeah. Was there a bar there at all is my question. Okay, so what about you? Now, okay, Peter, I can only imagine as a film what you thought of this. That's my preamble to you. Go for it, my friend.
Okay, now let me put some sanity into this discussion.
Who wants sanity? Come on.
That's right. That's what they said at Christmas. We don't want a sanity clause. Anyway, if we talk about this film, Helena Rain is the filmmaker, and she previously had made a film called Bodies, 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 and she loves exploring issues about women, their gender identity, and their role in life. And she's done this in Baby Girl to some extent. I don't think she's done it completely successfully, because from the outset we meet Nicole Kidman as her sexual character. And what the film progresses to show is that she's attracted to this younger man to accept her sexual proclivities and as a counterpoint to her mundane marriage to Antonio Banderas. So that is sort of understandable. What is not understandable is that she's never really at risk of being exposed, because she's in charge of the company. She heads it up. She's impervious, in other words, to what anyone might find out or say about her, which makes the narrative a little bit weaker for my liking. And Helena, as I mentioned, a Dutch filmmaker who's had a lot of acclaim in her films, she has tried to navigate this not entirely successfully. Also, Harris Dickinson's character is underdeveloped insofar as his character. He goes along for the ride because he thinks he might get some power or traction from it. But really, we don't know much about him. And that's one of the failings of the film, apart from perhaps the ending, apart from the mother-daughter relationship, which I felt could have been more strongly developed, hence Baby Girl. Who is the baby girl in this film? Is it Nicole or is it her daughter?
So, Peter, he calls her baby girl. Like, you can call somebody anything you want, potentially.
Yes.
As a term of endearment. So now, just stop for a second with regards to the ending. What did you not like about the ending? Did you not think it was real in the context of what was being talked about, or what did you not like?
I think it was a convenient, almost Me Too type ending.
Yes, that's what I thought.
But that's as far as I'll go with that.
Okay, no, that's fine. Well, we've already given everybody the script virtually throughout this conversation. So, okay. All right. So, given all of this, given that we started off by saying, well, some people are going to be attracted to it because of its subject matter. Let's start with you, Peter, with a score out of 10. I'm presuming that you're not going to give it much more than a 6. Go for it.
You're spot on. I gave it 6 out of 10.
Jacqui, I suspect that if you give it a 6, that would be a surprise, but that's about as far as you'll go too.
Yes, well, I did just want to mention, since Peter reminded me, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies by the director in 2022. I loved that film. That was a bit kind of macabre and madcap and crazy and fun and gory. I really liked that. I was surprised I liked that. So this film as a follow-up by the director is a bit of a disappointment for me, but I will give my extra point on it for Antonio Banderas, who is terrific as Romi's husband. I gave Baby Girl 5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's right. I was expecting a low ball score. Okay, it's left to the real people who like this movie. Sandy and I reckon, Sandy, you and I, maybe I'll give it even a higher mark than you, but go for it. What are you giving it?
Well, I would give it a 7. But
Yeah.
I don't understand why Antonio Banderas was so unappealing. He's supposed to be a sex symbol in himself. And when you look at her with him in this marriage, you go, yeah, I get it. I get why you'd like this young man who's so full of confidence and bravado. And I think it says a lot about modern sexual relationships today, as opposed to the traditional stereotype of relationships in the past. And maybe we're all too old to be judging relationships like this. But, I'm always open to learning. So, yeah, I would give it a 7. I thought her performance was good. I liked the young man's performance too. Banderas didn't have to do much. He was pretty sidelined. And I quite enjoyed the thought-provoking nature of this film, which kind of questioned how the world has changed and where women do stand today. Well, where both genders all genders stand today.
Yeah, look, geez, you clearly got a lot out of this one, which it's interesting, the different perspectives amongst all of us here. I thought, apart from the ending, which as we've talked about enough, I thought it was good. 7.5 out of 10 for Baby Girl. It's MA rated, runs 114 minutes, and go along and make your own judgment based on all of this.
What about me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Greg. I'm totally sorry.
That isn't fair. I want my share. But hold this was a what's his face? Shannon Knoll.
Oh, golly.
I'm with Jacqui on this one. 5 out of 10 for me.
I'm mortified. I'm sorry, Greg. I totally forgot you.
That's all right. I'm used to being ignored and overlooked, Alex. Don't worry about it.
All right. Well, hang on. You can have your first say on being my companion, which is the next movie we're talking about. You're on J-Air, by the way, 88 FM. Hey, contribute. Why not? $54 gets you membership. Just go to j-air.com.au, and we need your support. We want to have you listen, and we want to keep the station on air. So, Companion is the name of the movie, MA rated 97 minutes, and I'll start by saying be careful what you wish for, because that really is one of the takeaways from this psychological thriller. And what I really liked about this movie is it goes in one direction and then all of a sudden goes click, and oh my golly, it really ramps up. So very first, I don't know whether any of us remember your first meeting with your partner. I certainly do, because here I'll do a little bit of seeing you have done a lot of the personal initially in terms of talking about the previous movie, Sandy. I'll talk a little bit about Companion. I remember my first meeting with my wife. It was incredibly memorable.
Are you sure that is a real meeting and not a figment of your programming?
It could be. My mind.
Meg, spoiler.
Yeah, hang on. What is going on here, guys? We do not want to give away too much about a movie. All right.
Anyone that's in the trailer knows what the movie's about.
Well, yes, but
Everybody might go without seeing the trailer.
Correct. Anyway, I remember what my wife was wearing, how she looked, and the impact she had on me when we met all those years ago. It was phenomenal. So,
Why don't you make a movie about it?
well, yeah, because I'm a reviewer, not a movie maker. So you can make it. You'll give me your take on it. But
Who would play you in the movie? Would it be Tom Cruise?
No, it's interesting. Some people have equated me to another actor. His first name's Ryan. What's his surname? No. It was great. My mobile phone is ringing while we're doing. Don't people know not to disturb me in this context? I don't know what to do here. How do I switch it off?
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Folks, I don't know. I'm trying to turn it off and it doesn't turn off.
We're visiting a lot of technical problems today, Alex.
You know what it is? I mustn't have put it on silent, so I'll ring them back. Suffice to say, I apologise for everybody listening. This is chaos. Yeah. Okay. The reason I'm mentioning all of this, and I got to say that my wife was in a jumpsuit with a purple shell in the middle of her midriff, and her eyes and makeup. Oh my golly. Anyway, this.
Beer show is turning into a relationship show. I mean, it's very strange.
It is. Look, that's the beauty of live radio. A decidedly awkward first meeting at the supermarket for the star of this one, a lady called Iris, played by Sophie Thatcher. I wonder whether she's related to Margaret. Anyway,
Heretic.
Yeah, but is she related to the former British Prime Minister?
Probably not.
Why? Why probably not? Anyway, her name's Iris, and she meets Josh, played by Jack Quaid, who, yes, is Dennis Quaid's son, isn't he?
Yes, son of Dennis Quaid and McGrime.
Yes. So there you go. So why wouldn't Sophie Thatcher be related to Margaret? I say ask again. Anyway, the connection in this supermarket is palpable. It's a question of which aisle. Did they meet in the meat aisle? Did they meet at... No. Anyway.
Fruit aisle.
They did meet, yes. They went Fruit Loops for each other.
It was oranges, wasn't
it?
Yeah. So it was really what... So it's matching oranges with apples. Anyway, Iris falls hard for Josh and they become a couple. And sometime later, they take a trip to visit Josh's friends in this beautiful home in remote bushland by the sea. Brilliant.
I'll just quickly interrupt you, Alex. Sophie Thatcher is actually American, which is probably why she's not related to Margaret Thatcher.
There you go. I got it. I totally screwed up. No one to. I've got a second apology for you today, Greg. So, having said all of that, Iris is very, very nervous about saying and doing the wrong things around Josh's friends, but he basically says, "Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine." Iris is particularly concerned about a female friend of Josh called Kat, played by Megan Suri, who Iris basically she believes that Kat doesn't like her. And this luxurious home, well, that turns out to be that of Kat, that friend I've just spoken about. She's got a Russian gangster boyfriend called Sergei, and he's the one who owns this house. Sergei, played by an almost unrecognisable Rupert Friend. And also there is a gay couple called Ellie and Patrick. And like Iris and Josh, they were besotted when their eyes first met in rather absurd circumstances. So, yeah, first meetings, it's all about. Anyway, all seems to be in order until Sergei overreaches badly. And thereafter, there'll be hell to pay. And when thinking about this movie, the first thing I thought of, the expression first impressions can be misleading, immediately comes to mind. And not to put too fine a point on it, blood will be spilt more than once. The title comes from what we're dealing with here, namely lifelike companion robots. So, this is a guilty pleasure. I really enjoyed the wild ride, became more intense and far-fetched as it progressed. And one of the golden rules of robotics is in this movie is that humanoids can't lie. And dare I say, a brave new world awaits. The writer-director is Drew Hancock. He cut his teeth on television, and he clearly has a vivid imagination. And an advantage of the script is that you really never know where the narrative is heading. There's shocks and surprises aplenty, and Thatcher transitions nicely from needy and compliant to rather resourceful and pragmatic. And Quaid shows Josh's ugly side. Friend, well, he invokes fear as Sergei, he really does. And I thought the two boys were kind of polished and playful. So I appreciated also, there's a highway cop here played by Mark Menachaka, and I thought he was a sort of cameo role, but it was memorable. So, performances were good. While the dangers of AI and robots taking over are certainly apparent in this movie, what's also on show here is greed. And I'm here to tell you that despite Gordon Gekko's creed in Wall Street, greed ain't good, right? Let's be honest in terms of this movie. Still, there's a lot of macabre fun to be had in Companion, isn't there, Greg?
There is indeed here. Now, you mentioned the fact that that's robots there. This film reminded me a lot of Westworld, the Michael Crichton film from 1973, when a robot goes haywire, breaks down, and goes on a killing spree. So that's where I thought, that's what first time I thought of when I was watching this one. But it is a lot of fun. It keeps subverting your expectations. You're never sure where it's going. It's always sort of changing there. I thought the performances were good. It was well shot. There's a lot of humour in here. And for such a small cast, there is actually a high body count.
Yes. Well, movies like this are like that. But isn't it interesting how it starts off as decidedly one thing and ends up as something entirely different? But it's done, the notes associated with it are winners as far as I'm concerned, Greg.
Yep. Yeah. But I like the fact that it had a positive depiction of that gay couple for a while there as well.
Yes. Well, I mean,
which is unusual in a mainstream Hollywood film.
Well, Eli or Ellie, played by Harvey Guillel, and Patrick by Lucas Gage. So, yeah, as I said, both of them, I mean, Gage is quite polished as Patrick and Guillel is playful as Eli or Ellie. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the pronunciation.
They have their own meet cute story as well, don't they?
They do indeed, very much so. Peter, did you like Companion?
Not particularly. I've seen a number of. Of
course. Why would you? Why we, Peter?
AI robot related films, Ex Machina, The Trouble with Being Born, etc. There are a number of good films, and this one doesn't quite work for me. In fact, it felt for me like it was an extended student film that needed a few more script drafts because it sacrificed the AI component for the revenge crime body count component, which the film then settles into. I really felt that the characters were underdefined. I felt the storyline was a bit twee at the start and then became rather pointless as it progressed in terms of the revenge aspect. I was quite disappointed by it. I expected this to be a much stronger film.
So, hang on. Didn't you like the romantic meetings between the parties at the start? You didn't like that at all?
Contrived and sacrificed for what the film really was about later on.
Come on, love and sex, go for it. This is what this whole program's all about.
Love and sex on film.
Seems to be a theme running through this program today.
Exactly. Maybe we got to rename it for this particular. Well, do we put it in sort of a black paper bag or something?
No, sex lies and videotape. How's that?
Very good. Thank you, Greg. Take it up. My people will take it up with your people. Okay. So what about you, Jackie? I surely you like this one.
I didn't like it. I loved it.
Ah, good stuff.
This is like, I did not expect to like it. I actually don't like sci-fi films. I was a bit when I saw the photo on the the poster, but it's such a romp. It really is. It's about fun entertainment, Peter. It's not necessarily about and I didn't like the start because I was thinking, oh, this is a kind of a dull rom-com sort of thing, and then it starts the twists, and it's a twisty tale, and it just keeps going, and it builds up into this kind of gory horror sci-fi, keeps romance going, and it's a thriller, and it's sort of got a bit of everything. Yes, it throws everything in there, and I thought that was good fun, and I really enjoyed that. It's a little bit ridiculous at times, so you could have a bit of a laugh, and yet I really liked all of the characters. Okay, maybe they weren't all fully developed, but as we got to know them, we sort of worked out where their place was in the film, and I was quite invested in all of them, human and not. And so the story was clever, the story was fun. I loved the home in the woods. It was a good setting and a beautiful architecture there for me to enjoy. And I also liked, as you mentioned, that one scene with the highway policeman.
Yes.
That was probably my favourite scene in the film, in German, by the side of the road, because there was so much going on in the undercurrent there, and the looks in the faces and the confusion, and that it was just a clever dialogue and a really snappy, fun, little memorable episode in the film companion.
You know something, Jackie? It's funny you mentioning this. I reckon there should be an award for the best scene of the year. Right? Well, I'm not aware that there is one, but I mean,
Gee, how would you judge that?
Well, I think it'd be damn hard, but wouldn't it be? That'd be a lot of fun. I reckon you could get.
But sometimes the best scene, Alex, will be because of what's gone on before. So the scene in itself, might not work unless you know what's built up to it.
Why don't you add another Oscar for best scene of the year? I mean,
okay, let's do it then. All right,
let's do it for them. And there needs to be up to 10 categories of best director. I still say, if you got 10 categories of best film, do they direct themselves? That's been my bugbear. Sandy,
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't say? Okay, no worries.
Not by the sounds of all of you talking about it, apart from you, Jackie, I'm not sorry.
Oh, it was this.
I can't help it if the boys aren't enthusiastic.
Exactly.
I am. I like it.
It's only Peter, Mr. Grumbleguts. Hello, Peter.
That's entertainment.
It's entertainment, exactly. All right, go on, lowball it for me, Pete.
Okay, 4 out of 10 from me.
Oh, no.
To the Grinch.
Gee whiz, that's it. Peter the Grinch is your name from here on. Wow. Companions MA, 97 minutes. Okay, Greg, go for it.
7.
Mm-hmm. Jackie?
I was going to tell you about my first meeting.
Oh, okay.
My partner, Pippa.
This is a dog. We're not.
Yes, that's right. It was only nice. Okay, companion. I gave companion 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Are we talking about animal husbandry now? Right. Okay.
8 out of 10. Lovely, good, fun, entertaining. And okay, maybe some people are a bit old for it. No, I shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that. But one thing that did come across for me is it is a very fresh, young, modern film. But that, anybody can enjoy that. I was just being cheeky then.
No, you were. And I've got to say, it's kind of interesting. We're all around the same age, folks, in case you thought that was a real dig. We all are around the same age. Anyway, let's go on to the next movie.
What's your score, Alex?
7.5, Greg.
There you go. So you're forgetting a lot today.
No, that's because it reminds him of his wife.
Well, no, then it would be a 10. Right. So having said that, unfortunately, she's never listened, so my references are totally lost. Having said all of that, let's talk about a really important movie called September 5, which is 95 minutes rated M. And boy, this is a good film. I mean, I'm surprised that this didn't pick up. So this to me should have been given quite a few Oscar nominations. But anyway, it was the day live sports coverage became live news coverage of the most heinous kind. And we're talking September 5, 1972. And it's at the Athletes' Village in Munich at the 20th Summer Olympics. And terrorists, for those people who are around would remember this, affiliated with this militant organisation known as Black September, captured and killed 11 Israeli athletes and coaches. And this movie tells the story from the perspective of the American television network that was covering the games, that being ABC in the United States. And I've got to say, these Olympic Games that we're talking about were the first to be broadcast live around the world via satellite. So you've got Jeffrey Mason, played by John Magaro, a young, ambitious producer. And he's keen to prove himself to his mentor, Marvin Bader, played by Ben Chaplin, and to their boss, who happens to be a legendary television executive called Rune Artledge, played by Peter Sarsgaard. Or not with a T, Arledge rather than Artledge, Rune Arledge. Mason, this young, ambitious producer, is behind the control panel when shots that shook the globe ring out. And suddenly it's all hands on deck as Sarsgaard fights for the sports arm of the network, which is on the ground in Munich to retain control of the unfolding story, because usual practice would have been to immediately divert to news, and they would have covered it remotely from the United States. So with the help of a German interpreter called Marianne Gebhardt, played by Leonie Benesch, Mason and the crew scramble to bring the world the unfolding events. And there's no shortage of internal and external tension as live pictures capture hooded guerrillas on a hotel balcony and hostages in extreme peril. And I mean, it brought it all back. And I found it really affecting, really distressing to sit through this. I was quite emotional, and it's been remarkably crafted. The production values in this movie are phenomenal. It mixes broadcast vision from the time with a dramatisation of the events that went down. The looks on the faces of the key players say it all. Their interchanges, what they do, feels real, really impressive. And bear in mind, this is unlike anything that the TV sports team had previously confronted. And one of the key questions that's posed is just how far should they go in telling the story? What do they actually show on television? What don't they? Then there's the politics of the situation and the behind-the-scenes political byplay. So there's a lot going on here, and it's a movie that I would highly commend. I think there's going to be a lot of people who appreciate what's pictured here. As Mason, John Magaro comes across as dynamic and competent. Ben Chaplin as Bader, really keen to ensure that they're safe that they are on safe ground. And Sarsgaard shows real leadership as Arledge, and Benesch adds character and depth as the German interpreter, highly attuned, I might say, to the country's ignominious past. I'm talking about the Holocaust. And for those who've lived through the horror of what unfolded at the time, as with me, I dare say the film will bring it all back. And for others who didn't, or weren't even aware of this stain on the Olympics and on common decency, it's a real eye-opener. And the co-writer with Morris Binder and Alex David, and the director Tim Fellbaum, I think is to be highly commended for his focus on authenticity. which extends to the actual broadcasting equipment, the original broadcast equipment. Amazing stuff. And whilst it's far from an easy watch, September 5 is undeniably gritty and gripping. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a must-see. What did you think of it, Peter?
I agree with you. It's an excellent film, almost like a docudrama recreating the events of the time. And I know it was shot at the Bavarian Film Studios in Munich to give it that authenticity. Yes, it's excellent casting for everyone involved, but the whole notion of the ethics and the politics and the historical perspective that the Germans were careful not to deal with because they didn't want to be shown as interrogating or as providing sort of negative sort of coverage for the Olympics. It's really fascinating stuff. And as I said, the ethics and power play are really beautifully done. Leonie Benesch, plays the translator, I'm sure people will recognize her from The Teacher's Lounge, the excellent German film. So there is so much to like and admire about the recreation of the events of this film, and a lot to think about. Tim Fehlbaum, who is the Swiss-German writer-director of this film, who's made some other terrific films, has really portrayed the events of that era extremely well, and it gives you a real insight into how a newsroom or a sports journalist collective would deal with unfolding events that are very difficult to deal with in the first place. What do you show on screen? Do you encourage the PLO? So much going on in this film. Very impressed.
Yeah, and I also thought The Teacher's Lounge is a phenomenal film if people haven't seen it, because the Leonie Benesch plays the sort of teacher trying to get the bottom of a particular matter involving theft, and it goes far further than that. So if people haven't seen that one, I would highly commend it. What about you, Jacqui? What did you think of this movie, September 5?
I'll agree with pretty much everything said about September 5. Real sense of immersion in it, and I think that's thanks to obviously the painstaking research that they've done, and as you say, using authentic materials and dialogue and all those sorts of things. A real sense of, kind of being there behind the scenes and not always really knowing what's going on and having to make decisions on the fly. And one thing that, apart from the actual story of what's going on and that I found interesting as a byproduct of looking back, is it does show how much technology has advanced in 50 years, which we know, of course, but it's really interesting to look at the immediacy of the comparison of how they were gathering news back then, and yet how some things have never changed, of the way a news hound will chase a story and, go for the best angle and be making decisions on the fly about what they can and can't use, ethics and using their contacts and the politics, of course, that are going on within the sports area there and the news area. So really interesting and very involving, especially if you don't have two people in the audience at the cinema just talking nonstop and looking at their phones all the time, which was really annoying. But there you go.
Yes, okay. Unfortunately, you had to put up with that.
I did.
I find it fascinating because I was in both radio and TV sort of soon after this film was set, and I remember the equipment that we used. I remember it's fascinating. You two, sorry, who said that? Sandy?
Me, Sandy. Yes, you
yeah.
Yep.
Did you must have used in radio, if you were in radio, they used to cut actual tape. Right, splicing was a big part of what you were doing, and it was so archaic looking back. I mean, I was brought up in the era of portable typewriters and things of that nature, and of course remember Whiteout and Tipex and all of those sorts of things, and it's fascinating to look back and how technology really has changed. Because I mean, Greg, you like your music, and Sandy as well, you remember cassette tape and even. And even on records, they weren't all 45s, and what was they were different. There was 45,
3 to 3rd, 45s and 78s.
Yeah, in the 70s. I mean, it's all of this stuff. Like if you speak to our kids, they wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Vinyl is back.
Right, was back to the bit way. I go into JB Hi-Fi now, and the CD section, which used to take up probably a lot of space, is now being compacted, and the vinyl section is spread like someone turned the lights off, and it's multiplying.
Yes, which I'm very pleased about. So,
They're very expensive. Must feel expensive now.
To turn the lights off for.
well, hang on. Is this AI, the AI of sex on records? Is that what this is, Greg? Right,
Yes.
it's spreading.
The little hard drive goes into the doohickey.
Please, please, we're going to put it. You know, we're going to be taken off air in a moment. Good golly, man. Okay, so I've totally lost it here. So where were we? Who was talking?
Comment about September 5 because I really liked it. I remember living through it and watching it, that broadcast go on air. Apparently over 1 billion people watched that happen. I love the way that the sports guys handled the whole thing. My only thing about the movie was that it was slightly too technical. We didn't get any of the emotionality of the athletes at all. We didn't get to know any of the people. It was all from the perspective of the technology and the team that were handling it, which was obviously the way it was designed. I just would have liked to have a little bit more connection, personal connection to the victims of that and the perpetrators as well, perhaps.
I think other films have done that though, Sandy. This one sets itself apart by dealing from this point of view exclusively.
But hang on, there was also a reference to the Israeli who was an American. There could have been more of that, but do you remember him, Sandy? No.
No. Oh, no.
The guy he was one of those who died, but there was a reference to him, and in fact, they played an interview with him, which I think was the real footage.
Yeah, but that wasn't the gist of this film.
No, I get that, but it was very. I wondered how people who, I mean, we got a lot out of it because we've been in the industry and because to see all those technology changes that have happened, to recall, that time back in the 70s when we were working with all that technology. I wonder how the average punter will relate to it when they couldn't give a hoot about the technology or the fact that it was sports as opposed to news handling it, because it wouldn't mean a lot to them. It meant, I mean, we understand that a whole lot better having lived through those times and having undergone roles within that industry.
This is silly, but this is an adjunct. I remember when you had cassette recorders in cars and cassette recorders as well, and when the blasted thing didn't work and you had to use a pencil to spool it back, and oh my golly, it just feels clunky to even talk about it. So let's get some scores. Greg, you liked September 5?
Well, you haven't even asked my opinion on it.
We're running.
He's on a roll. At least he's consistent with forgetting.
We're running very short of time, Greg. Give us your thoughts, please.
Yeah, look, I this was very claustrophobic film. It was most of it took place within that control room there, where the people were watching events, working out what to show, what not to show, planning how they could get around it and what they could do. But I like the old school technology and how they had to adapt and change things as well as they moved on there. But I like what I think what Sandy said about the not knowing the characters and everything, of the athletes. That didn't matter who you got the insights of to the actual broadcast American team there and what they were going through and what they were thinking and how they were responding to the events there, which I thought brought an immediacy to it. And I like the way that they incorporated that archival footage onto the TVs there. So it gave it almost a documentary feel, an immediacy that you're almost there watching events unfold.
Yeah, which is really important. Saini, I'm going to ask you something. This is because today has been really bizarre. If you look at, we're recording this as we're going as well. Can you just look at your timepiece and tell me where we're up to? Because I'm going to have to stop it at some point, and I think I've gone overboard. What does it say? Hello.
I haven't been recording it.
Well, it's 56 minutes, Alex, but that started
10.
I've got 54 on my screen.
Oh, it's be some lost on.
Also by you.
Yeah, lovely. Well, we're technically prolific and efficient. I want scores and then we're out of here. So, Peter, score for September 5, rated M, 95 minutes.
Yes, it has an Oscar nomination for original screenplay.
Yes.
I give it 9 out of 10.
It needed more. 8.5 for me. Sandy.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. And I thought the 90 however minutes you said was a perfect length. None of this 2.5 or 3 hour rubbish. Yep, very good.
Right, Greg.
8.
I remembered you. And what's your name, Jacqueline?
Yes, sorry to be on the low ball here. I really did enjoy it, but I gave it 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, well, look.
It's a solid 7.5.
Solid 7. So 7,
Yeah.
7, 8.
No.
Thank you, folks. It's been a lot of fun. Sandy Kay, Jaqui Hammerton, Peter Krause, the Grinch, and Greg King. Keep on Grinching, Peter. We'll speak to you very soon on...
And I'm the Invisible Man.
Oh, yeah. I did say hello, Greg. Yes, you are the Invisible Man today. We will... Well, we'll have more of this nonsense very soon. First on Film and Entertainment, signing off, and watch a lot of cinema because we love talking about it. Catch you next time.